Hey, it's Hazel and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of the Battle of the Bright palettes, and today it's Morphe versus Sleek, actually tested on the eyes. So today is not so much of a competition as it is a get the most out of the palette look. So I'm going to be trying to use as many of the colours as I can and make them look as similar as I can. Okay, so first off I'm going to be using the Morphe palette on the left eye. Using my Morphe Picasso palette, I'm setting down a thick layer of white shadow over my primer to make the colours pop. Then I'm digging my brush into the yellow, and although you do have to force the colour a bit, you do actually get a decent amount of pigment on the lid, and I found that after getting through the first layer on each colour, the pigment was actually a lot better than in the swatches. One problem I did find was a lot of fallout. I kept having to brush off my cheeks, but that was only because I was having to dig out the colours a little bit. Although the texture is a bit chalky, I did manage to blend the colours fairly easily using light fluffy brush strokes with a clean brush. But I did need to build the colours up a lot, especially on the dark blue and purple, as they did turn out quite patchy on the first go because of the texture of the product. I created a rainbow effect on my lid to try and demonstrate how each colour works, and the only colour I didn't use was the black, but I imagine it would be similar to the dark blue in texture and blendability. I then smudged out my lower lash line using the same colours and a small Morphe smudging brush. This was just to intensify the colours around the eye to make everything stand out a bit more. I then went back into the top lid, blending and intensifying any colours that needed perfecting there, before finally finishing the look. Okay, next we're going to do the right side with the Sleek palette and try and make it look like the left. As there was no white in the Sleek palette, I laid down a layer of face powder over my primer to make blending easier. I tried to repeat the look from the left eye on the right using the Sleek Rio Rio palette, but I had far fewer colours to work with on this side, and some of the colours were shimmer, whereas in the Morphe palette all of the colours were matte, so obviously the looks didn't match perfectly. I found that the yellow, green and blue shimmer colours were amazingly buttery and easy to blend with, which I was quite impressed with. The matte colours from the Sleek palette were definitely slightly less chalky than the Morphe palette, making them easier to blend, and I think the coverage was better with the Sleek shadows, although the matte colours did still need to be built up. There was still fallout with the Sleek palette, and I think both palettes were equal offenders in that respect, and I found the purple shadow particularly hard to blend. I only managed to use 7 of the 12 colours in this palette, as some of them were neutral tones, and obviously this look is far from neutral. Overall, I think I managed to make the eyes match fairly well, showing that the palettes can be interchangeable for some looks, so if you're not in a region that can easily get one of the palettes, you could always go for the other one. And one thing I do prefer about the Sleek palette is that it doesn't have the Play-Doh-y smell that the Morphe palette does, it's just completely scentless. So there it is, how to get the most out of your palettes. Personally, I prefer the Morphe one, being all matte and having a wider range of colours, but you don't get the opacity that you do with the Sleek palette, and I think the Sleek palette is rather more blendable, although the purple I did struggle with, it's not as blendable as the rest. Putting the white base under the Morphe palette did make the colours pop a lot more, so I'm glad I discovered that. And overall, I actually think that they're both really, really good palettes, and the Morphe one's a lot more usable than I thought in my last video. Okay, I hope you enjoyed my video. Like and subscribe if you did. Thank you for watching the Battle of the Brights part 2, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye guys.